by the military-industrial complex.
And now, the Taliban will pay a price.
Do we have the confidence to do in the Middle East what our fathers and grandfathers accomplished in Europe and Asia?
The situation in Afghanistan is deteriorating.
What I do oppose is a dumb war.
Welcome back to the Boardwalk. We are joined by special guest Nadia. She served as an interpreter for U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Is that right, Nadia? I want to make sure I'm not talking over myself. Okay, very good. Yeah, she's served as an interpreter for U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Do you still do interpretation work, Nadia?
I don't.
Okay.
Actually, once I came home in 2013, I stopped working as an interpreter.
I see. Well, I'm sure you've got all sorts of cool stories that we'll ask you about. And so just welcome to the Boardwalk podcast. And we'd love to just have you introduce yourself to everybody. Just give a brief introduction and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on here. Well, my name is Nadia, of course. And I came to the United States when I was 14 years old. And we came from Pakistan because after the Russians left, there was, as you guys know, there was war going on between the warlords in Afghanistan. So we had to leave Afghanistan and go to Pakistan. At the time, I was very young and I cannot remember a thing, basically. But my family stayed in Pakistan for a very long time. And then from there, we came to America, straight to California. I studied here. And then in 2010, I was working for a fragrance company. And I decided to just go to Afghanistan and make a difference. In 2010, I started going from California to Georgia, Fort Benning. That's where we processed from. We went to Baltimore for training for a week. I'm sorry, for a month, basically. Yeah, for a month. It was for a month training, and afterwards, we got deployed to Bagram. We went from Fort Benning to Kuwait, stayed in Kuwait for about 2 weeks, and then from there to Bagram. And I got assigned with 82nd Airborne Team and RC West Herat Campstone.
Were you I guess technically a military personnel at the time, or were you still a civilian just working as an interpreter at the time?
I was a civilian DoD contractor. So all these interpreters that are going to Afghanistan or Syria or Iraq, wherever they're going to, they do have a contract signed for a year or 2 years to be there, to go there and stay there and work. So yeah, I landed in RC West and I stayed there for a little bit. That was my first deployment.
How many times did you go?
I went there twice. So in 2010, I stayed for a year. So I came home in 2011. I came home because I loved working in Afghanistan, being around people, being around military, helping people out, Afghan civilians. We did a lot of missions, going out side of the wire. We work with ANA, Afghan National Army, a lot. And then so basically being there was very interesting to me. Like, I was so intrigued by the politics and how the whole army life work. So I decided, when I came back in 2011, I decided to go back after 6 months. I stayed home for 6 months, and then I went back to Afghanistan.
So Nadia, you referenced that you came to the States at the age of 14, leaving directly from Pakistan. So I know we've talked some about just the Soviet-Afghan War. We haven't really talked much. We've tried to speak on what happened afterwards, but when you look at the American history books, that's kind of a gray area, not a lot of information. Based on what you're saying, can you kind of explain what Afghanistan was like post-Soviet Afghan war when you had pretty much a power vacuum and you had warlords? Because I was always under the impression that things got at least marginally better because the Soviets weren't there. Is that an unfair or a not quite true statement?
You're right. That's not quite true. During the Russian time, I guess the Mujahideen were fighting against Russians outside of the cities. They were more in border areas. They were fighting Russian in borders, Kandahar border, like the north part of Afghanistan, south, north, everywhere. So Kabul was kind of quiet and people were living peacefully. But once the Russian left, everything got kind of scrambled, and when the warlords started fighting each other, they didn't care if they were killing civilians or each other, basically each other's army. And they're known to be very brutal and towards women, children, women, and men. They would torture civilians. They would go enter their house, their homes, like civilian home, innocent people, rape their wives, daughters, cut their fingers or their heads, or throw hot water on them, on the civilians, just because they wanted to, just because they had the power to. It's kind of a sick mentality that they have. I have heard stories from my father. I guess he was there when he was witnessing things as well, because he was more outside to go work or go shopping, grocery, this and that. So he would see a lot of crimes that was happening. So that made him to make a decision to just, go ahead and leave his beloved country and move to Pakistan. We had no other choice but to do that. Since I had sisters that were teenage sisters and my brother, and so that was, he kind of protected us, basically.
So the refugee, the influx of refugees to Pakistan didn't really cease after the Soviet-Afghan war.
Yes, exactly.
And so the Russians basically, when they were there and they occupied the main cities, they maintained a sort of peace, I guess, in the city, and then outside that, you said that's where all the fighting and the crime and all that seemed to take place.
Exactly. Yes, just like we were there. Like American forces were there. Kabul was just, fine. Our main cities, Kabul, Mazar Sharif, Herat city, those big cities were just fine. But we had a fight going on around the borders, which was south border, mostly from Pakistan side that we were fighting in Kandahar and Helmand, because they were more connected to Pakistan. And the Taliban were coming from there as well.
So how old were you when you first went to Afghanistan as an interpreter?
How old was I? Let's say 24. 24.
So what were your impressions like, at 24? I guess that's about how old I was when I was there. What were your impressions like when you step off that, that plane in Herat or in Mazar or wherever RC West? I can't remember if it's quite in Herat or not, but what were your impressions when you first got there?
When we landed in Bagram, things were very intense. I remember there was a big area for people who just landed. I think it was Disney area. I forgot the name of the place, but there were a lot of people that when they land, they just go there just for a week or so until they get their assignments and leave. So when I landed, luckily I was with a whole team. So we had a whole team of interpreters, couple women and mostly men. it was scary, to be honest with you, because I didn't know how it was to be in a war zone, because I don't remember when we left from Afghanistan. I was very young, as I mentioned before. Things were really rough, and then when each time the fighter jets would take off from Bagram Air Force Base, it would just be so loud, and for 2 or 3 days we couldn't sleep. We were just scared, especially as women. We were just so scared. But later on, as we got into with our teams, and we got assigned, and really got into what it is like to be in Afghanistan and be with the teams. You're protected with them. They make sure that they brief you. They tell you, hey, okay, you're my interpreter. We got your back no matter what. You don't have to be scared of anything. So that kind of made us more feel at ease because of our teams.
You said you worked for the 82nd or the 101st. I can't remember which airborne you were assigned
82nd.
to. Okay.
82nd.
Okay. Go ahead.
Great team. I have great memories from them, and we have done a lot of missions to help the people of Afghanistan to achieve their missions for whatever reason it was.
So Nadia, what kind of I know you and I talked a little bit leading up to this. You regarding missions, like, was it a female engagement team type setting, or were you just going out with patrols, key leader engagements? Like, what kind of missions were you supporting?
At first, it was female engagement teams that we were assigned to. Then they were assigned to Marines, and we did have a Marine base in Camp Stone Herat, and we did have a female engagement team of two female Marine, and it was more of a MARSOC base, very small base inside of a big base. So yeah, we started with the female engagement team, and then they closed after like a couple of months, they closed the MARSOC area. I guess they didn't need him or something, or they sent him back to Helmand province, to Camp Leatherneck. And then we had to stay back, and they found us teams that they needed us to go out with. I did work with S2 shop, and some other medics, medevacs, and stuff like that. So wherever they needed us, they would just ask us to go with them.
So it wasn't like you were assigned to a specific like company or platoon. It was basically you were kind of on a rotation with whichever group needed you at different times.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Can you describe what a mission looks like as a female engagement team member? We've briefly mentioned on the podcast these types of teams, but I think you're the first woman we've had on the podcast. So can you tell us a little bit about what a female engagement team does, what you were doing like on a mission outside the wire, and maybe describe a little bit about what it's like being a female in Afghanistan?
Well, I'm very honored to be the first female to speak to your podcast and to you guys. Thank you for inviting me. The female engagement team is basically what they do is it's a combination of a couple things. Collecting intel is the first thing. Second is making sure that the women and the children are not scared of our troops when we go out on mission or to their homes or to any shuras that they used to hold shuras. Shura, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys know the shura, the leader of the village will sit and then they have a talk with the people of the village and they make decisions, and we kind of have to, go with that and, listen to them and accept what their conditions are or what they expect from us. So basically go by that, so that we don't have to step on anyone's toes. Especially religious leaders that were from village. And that's what I like about our forces, that they always made sure that they did not step on any mullah's foot or any village's elder person. We had to respect them, and we had to listen to them, and that way they could cooperate with us, and then we cooperated with them. So yes, the third part was that we used to go on missions at nighttime. Basically, to go, for example, we would find some place that we had an intel, going there and getting someone. We have to, extract someone from their home or wherever they are. What we do was we made sure to take the women and the children and corner them in one room, so they're not scared of the men coming to their house or have any conflict. That, oh my God, all these military men came and they try to see our women or men or children, or take our children or women away. So we were basically securing that gray area because of the religious purposes or the cultural thing that is, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure you've heard of it, that you cannot go to someone's house if you're a stranger. I mean, we don't let strangers to come to our house here in America. So yeah, the same thing we did was we would just go and make sure that the women are secure and safe, and they're okay, they're not panicking, and all of that.
So that's interesting. I didn't realize that you were part of those operations when, because I think we've talked about it many times. These night raids on certain compounds, like after high value targets. So you would actually attend with the guys on those missions, and then your job, once of course I'm sure it was secured, was to just go be with like the women and children and keep them separate from what was going on as far as the military operation occurring. Is that kind of what you're talking about there?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
I had no idea that was going. That's pretty neat. I didn't realize we had that.
And most of the time, the medical part would take place as well. Like there would be no any doctors. For example, we're in a village that there's no doctor, female or male doctor. So we would go. We had a medic who is a male medic, and we had a lot of medication with us to give away to the villagers who are sick or poor, or something's going on with them. So we would help with that part as well. Have one of our CST team member assist with the women delivering a baby, or someone sick, giving them medication that a medic a male medic could not talk to them or see them. So we would just help with that as well.
Who was there like acting as a midwife? You said you'd be there at certain like deliveries of babies. So was that people like on your team? Were they interpreters acting as that kind of midwife, or did you have like certain personnel, like female personnel, that medical personnel you brought on to go help with that? That's interesting. I hadn't heard that before.
We did have a midwife in our team, just one. And that was one person from one team. The rest of them were basically the soldiers, female soldiers, and they were kind of briefed by the male medic, and they're briefed. So when they go to assist the lady, she just uses her skills that she learned from the doc. So we didn't really have a doctor in our team. But we were there to like help. Even some interpreters, they did have a medical background. For example, before I went to Afghanistan, I did do medical assistant school here for a year. And when I was there, when I was helping, I would give my feedback a little bit too, and I would say, hey, this is how it works. This is the medication, and this is the kind of the diagnosis was very hard for female to diagnose someone. Because we didn't have any lab, we didn't have a professional person. All they needed was pain medication, mostly adult with a lot of pain, adults with a lot of stomach issues. Because of their water, I guess it's very harsh water that they drink. And they had a lot of problem with, I think I saw the most that I encountered was mostly was the stomach issues and also female issues that they had, and some women didn't want to have kids, so we did not provide any facility or any medication for them because of their culture. Their men want to have kids. At that point, we were kind of a failure. Basically, we couldn't help them, but other than that, we did help them with other things.
I'm sure distributing birth control in villages would probably not be a very good look for the United States military to be doing. I can see us doing that, but at least somebody had the knowledge there to say, we're not going to. I think we'll draw the line there, so nobody can accuse us of anything.
Yes, exactly. Definitely.
Were you guys involved with like any of the handing out of like vaccines or administering vaccines to kids as you went along?
In RC West, Herat area was very upscale, I would say, other than like being in Kandahar or like in different areas, because the government of Afghanistan would provide people to go home to home and do the vaccination to the give them out to the kids or newborns or whatever whenever they get a chance. It was the Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health was helping a lot. They were stepping up their games. So people in Herat were pretty lucky. In the most parts, they were able to get vaccines. I mean, it was very dangerous for the personnel of the Ministry of Health to go home to home, and they used to hit IDs. They used to get shot at, but they did their job. So no, we did not provide any vaccination or anything.
So with the back to the key leader engagements or shuras, how involved would you be as a female interpreter? Because I know there can be issues with Afghanistan being a more kind of patriarchal culture. Would you be in there with like the male village elders interpreting, or would you not be able to because you were a female?
Honestly, they didn't have any problem with us translating for them. Most of them were very welcoming. It's very ironic to say that, but yeah, most of the village elders were very welcoming, very kind. But we did have male interpreters, and they would prefer male interpreters. As long as we had our scarves on, even the female engagement team or CST team, culture support team, we had our scarves on and just been, sit there, quiet, be respectful. That's all they needed from us, and listen. And also they would share their family problem with us. For example, if they had any female problems, at home, or their wife is sick or their daughter is sick, they would take us to their homes and say, hey, this is what's going on, and if you guys can help, that'd be great. So they were pretty good with that part. I did face a couple of people that did not like us at all to be there, especially female soldiers or female interpreters, because they keep on telling basically me that I'm going against my belief system in my religion to help out Americans, and that was very rare, very, very rare.
Well, they'd probably have issues with male interpreters doing that as well. I'd imagine.
They did.
In your community, I don't know if you're if you have a small community there in California with other former Afghan citizens that immigrated over here. I know sometimes people when they immigrate they have like a community kind of here in the United States too. How did your fellow Afghan friends or Pakistani friends feel about you wanting to go over and help the American forces there in Afghanistan? Because I've heard mixed stuff from people. Some people, it just depends on who it is and what their opinion on the whole war or the occupation is. I'm curious to hear your thoughts and your experiences with that.
To be honest with you, as you said, it's like a mixed feelings and mixed rumors. Most people who are it's so funny to me because they're in America. They live and breathe American air, and they're living under American flag, and they're citizens of America. But at the same time, they wanna hold the belief system that they have so tight. They just don't want to let go. And I do have that kind of issues around me, or my family do. It's the same thing. But so yeah, there are people who that's not mostly. I would say people from the South. They're a little closed to the idea of me being or going to working with the American soldiers or Afghan soldiers or even going to a war zone. But honestly, like about 70 in California, about 75 to 80% of people did go. Like probably 1 or 2% from a household would just go and come back. But yeah, we do have some people that they don't like the idea of it. It is kind of a mixed feelings.
Can I ask, what was your immediate family's response? Were they pretty supportive? We've had not to rain on Kyle's parade, but we have had Homa Muhammad on, who is the co-owner of Afghan Kebab. Her husband's Leo, who opened the kebab house on the boardwalk. And I remember she was talking about when she decided to go to Afghanistan as an interpreter, and it was a relatively mixed, mild reaction. No outright disowning or anything like that, but there was some hesitancy. Was your immediate family pretty on board, or I mean, obviously there's going to be safety concerns, but was there anything beyond that?
At first, they were shocked. They didn't know that I had the guts to do this. They were very shocked. Especially my mother. She did not necessarily say, "Oh, you shouldn't do it," because she always basically gave us wings to fly. My parents, I'm so lucky that my parents are so open-minded and let us do what we want to do. Yeah, I think it was a shock, and then second, as you said, it was the security concerns. So once I went to Afghanistan, I kept on contact with her every single day. So that kind of gave her a little bit of a comfort that, okay, I'm talking to her every day, or I have friends who are in contact with me, or social media, this and that. Other than that, my family had no issues at all. They still have no issues, and actually they see me as a very strong-minded and strong-willed person most of the time. So when they have something going on, that they cannot resolve or something, they just come up to me and they say, "Hey, what can we do, since you have so much experience and this and that," which is kind of I'm honored. I'm so glad that I did what I did, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It helped both countries, especially Afghanistan. My second tour was in Kandahar. I was in around Sangin, Maiwand area. That was very harsh, and harsh environment for the kids and women.
That's got to be quite the difference between Herat and Kandahar. Can you talk a little bit more about just Kandahar versus Herat there? I didn't realize that from one place to the other, that's quite a difference in culture, it seems.
Definitely. Herat is more or urban, I would say, like an urban city, because they're getting influenced by Iran. The culture is a little bit different. They're more open to new things, new ideas. They're more educated. I mean, they have schools, a lot of schools, and people are educated. Even in the villages in Herat, when you go to the villages, there are schools. There are men who are very open-minded, and the kids are quite normal, I would say, compared to Kandahar. Kandahar is, people are more closed off. It's not because they want to be closed off, it's because the Taliban made them to be that way, or else they will be killed. For example, if we go to someone's house as a female engagement team, and then we have a whole team of men with us, some of the female would not talk to us. They would just close their doors, will be like, we're not talking to you because our man will be killed at night. You guys are going to go from here now, but at nighttime, the Taliban are going to come and kill our men and children. So that was a little different for me and kind of shocking too, because being in Herat, things were so different. There wasn't so much threat of, Taliban coming to their houses and kill them, or threaten them that, oh, don't talk to Americans or else we'll kill you, or this and that. So yeah, that was a big difference between the. I think it was the communication and the whole persona of putting the persona of, oh my God, I'm not talking to you because my family are gonna get killed. So it was very hard to get into someone's house in Kandahar, to go and sit and speak to the women, ask for their problems or gather intelligence or anything that we could. It was kind of a challenge. So it was a bit challenging.
So on the occasions that you are able to talk to people, and I know we've talked about obviously Southern Afghanistan being more receptive to the Taliban, not necessarily that the support was there, but at least more tolerant of it. And like we know as analysts that Sangin to Maywan corridor, specifically to the Bandi Timor, has always been the Taliban hotbed. From the times that you were able to interface with some of the locals, did you get the opinion or the feeling that the support was stronger there than other parts of the country, or was it more that people were just intimidated, and so compliance was the best policy to ensure safety?
I would say the combination of both, because they have these madrasas in Pakistan. They put these ideas in as they're growing up, these kids, they're putting the ideas into kids' heads that, oh my God, all these American soldiers or whoever comes along with them, they're infidels, and we're not supposed to help them, and or else you're going to hell. Straight up, you're going to go to hell. So it was both ways. They were scared of Taliban. At the same time, they had that strong mentality of, okay, I'm reading in an Islamic center, and they're teaching us to not trust any foreigners, and we shouldn't. So most of the time, they would just basically lie to our faces. There was a time I remember we went on a mission, and we came under attack, and we were attacked by the people of the village. There was no Taliban there, but there were people of the village. So once we got under attack, and then we, everything calmed down, and the firefight stopped. So when it stopped, and we started to, go slowly towards the homes. So we went to the, knocking on the doors and stuff. We couldn't go to basically, there was like masjids, mosques. We couldn't even go to mosques, as you guys already know that. But we would go to knock on the doors and say, hey, can we speak to you guys? We're women, you don't have to be scared. There was a firefight. We don't know who just, shot at us. And a man would come outside, and he has this mark on his neck that has his rifle or whatever strapped. So it was so funny because it was sad and funny at the same time, because this is the man who just shot at us, right now, like a couple minutes ago. And now he's coming and speaking to us. And you would see the mark on his shoulder of the, what do you call it? AK-47. They have that strap on, and then they start, firing. So you don't know who is really your enemy when you're in a village. There were times that I was in Kandahar, in Shari district area. We went there for 3 days mission, foot patrol mission, and no one would attack us but the people of the village. They just didn't want us to be there.
And it's much more prevalent in the South, you said, than it was out west. Like that, they were much more accepting of us, I guess, out west than they were in Kandahar and other areas, it seems.
Yes, I would say so. For example, Kabul, Mazar Sharif, Herat, Panjshir. Those areas or those provinces are more, I'd say, not under Taliban's control, or they don't want Taliban. They don't get controlled by Taliban. They're not influenced by by this radical Islam mentality, because they know better. They have gone to school. Their fathers have gone to school. Their grandparents have gone to school, so they know better not to be controlled by this radical Islamic state. But Helmand, I was in Helmand as well, actually, for 2 or 3 months, Camp Leatherneck. Helmand and Kandahar, Konar, Jalalabad, places that was close to Pakistan. They were those places were the most dangerous one, and also the ones that were being controlled by the Taliban. They were being influenced by Taliban.
Was there any noticeable difference in the villagers' attitudes between Kandahar and Helmand? Because I think in our minds, looking at it, we had a little more influence in Kandahar, but it seemed like Helmand was just very difficult to branch out in from the military perspective, partially because of the Pakistani and Taliban influence there, but also because it was the main province for growing poppy, which funded the insurgency. So was there? Did you notice the villagers being like even more aggressive towards Americans there, or was it about the same as Kandahar?
You know what? That's a good question. Looking back, you are right. There was a difference. Helmand was very hard to get into, or to be around the villagers, or even go on a mission, because they were not letting us to get in even close to their village, let alone knocking on their doors. They were not welcoming at all. I remember there was a mission that we went to. We were in Helmand, basically. There was a mission that we went to. I think it was Marja, close to Marja somewhere. So we started walking towards their homes, and at first they start yelling and screaming at us not to come close to the village. These young guys, basically they're in their 20s or 18, 19 years old, that are highly been educated by Taliban in Pakistan. So they would just yell and scream, and we'd be like, "It's okay. We're female. We're fine. Your females are safe. Your women are safe. Your children are safe. We're just here to just see what problems you guys have that we can solve, or what issues or whatever." There's one guy. He was about, I think, 18 or 19, a little taller than I was. He was very intimidating. I went close to him, and I said, "Hey, listen, we're just here to help. Just give out some, candies or medication or whatever you guys need. We're here to help." He stood right in front of me, to my face, very firmly, and said, "If you don't get out of here, I'm going to shoot you in your chest right now. You infidel." Basically, he said it in Pashto. And my teammates they felt my girls that were on my right side and left side, they felt that they were like, "Oh no, Nadia, we have to get out of here. We're not doing anything here. Let's go." So that guy was very intimidating. I still remember, I get chills even looking at his eyes. I remember I get chills. The way he said it, the demeanor that he put it with, it was just so horrible. Yeah, he called me names, and he called me infidel, and just told me to get out or he will shoot me in my chest. It was tough. It was very rough. But in Kandahar, I didn't have that problem. In Kandahar, people would greet us or whatever, but at the same time, they were a little reserved. I don't know if they were really scared or if they didn't want to talk to us, or I don't know.
I think it's absolutely crazy that we would take you with, that you would volunteer to do this, because the United States military would essentially take you off the streets of California and say, we're going to send you to Afghanistan and we're going to put you with a bunch of people, and you're just going to go into villages and just like hope they don't just start opening fire at you. Like that takes a lot of courage, Nadia, to like sign up to do that, because especially unarmed or, just out there with no real training or anything. So I applaud that. That's dangerous. That's some dangerous stuff you were part of, for sure.
Thank you very much. Being an interpreter is not easy, especially as you said, over where we were in a war zone. So when you're outside, when you go outside of the wire, you have to be ears, all ears and eyes, and pay attention to while you're talking to someone. For example, we were talking to a woman in a house. I have to listen to the other ladies, what they're saying, so that way I know that we're not in danger. So I have to basically you have to protect your all four sides. Have an ear, 2 ears in your back, 2 ears in front, and listen and feel the vibe. Or even while you're talking and translating things, you're still listening to their men, what their men are saying, so that way my team is not in danger. That's my responsibility to save them, to let them know, hey, this is not a good place right now, right here. Let's get out.
Did you ever get any requests for information? So one of the things that we would use teams for is to go out and try to gather intelligence for us. As intel guys ourselves, nobody's going to come talk to me. A, I don't speak Pashto, and B, I'm a white guy in Afghanistan. Nobody's going to tell me anything. so we would send these interpreters out there, right? And they would, we'd have to build a list. We'd write down these questions called requests for information, like, do you know what this warlord's doing? Do you know where this guy is? What's he up to now? Did you ever get those requests for information, and then just trying to hand out medical supplies or hand out candy or talk to women and kids? Were you ever hey, where this warlord's at, by the way? How do you slide that into conversation? Oh, by the way, hey, I don't know if you've heard of a Stinger missile being in the area or anything. So I just wonder if you ever had any of those questions and had to slide those into conversation.
We definitely did. Actually, our main goal was that. It was, we did. I'm trying to remember. I can give you an example of. But our main goal was to get information. Oh, yeah, I was going to tell you. So we went to this checkpoint in Kandahar, Maiwand. The checkpoint's leader, the commander, was very helpful and very resourceful, and he was helping us a lot with a lot of intel and other stuff. So we went there, and they asked me to, gather information. So we're sitting there, and of course we have to drink chai while we're sitting, because we're at their home. Basically, we have to drink chai, sit, and have some, crack some jokes with them, and they call me, Hala, which is auntie. Auntie, calling you auntie is an honor, basically, because they count you as their family member. So they call me Hala. Okay, they joke around, and the boys over there giggling, and to them it's just so unusual that these American female are here, and this Afghan female is here too, and she speaks Pashto or Farsi, whatever. So what we would do is just leave the boys to drink chai and have their conversation with the commander and and his friends, and then I would just take a guy and just go upstairs to the terrace or wherever and talk with them, and the guy would be, oh, you know what, can you take my picture, Hala, this and that. And then one of the female engagement team or CST team would be with me and asking me questions while I'm taking pictures and asking questions from this guy. And he would just, give everything away just to take a picture with us. So, yeah, we did that as well. Pretty fun times.
That's cool stories because, everybody, when you say that you're in intelligence, they're always like, oh, is it like James Bond? I'm like, no, it's a lot more paperwork and making PowerPoint presentations. I'm like, people that are like you, I mean, going out and like trying to obtain this information, and like, and try to befriend the popular. I mean, you guys are like that's the really cool intelligence stuff that nobody really gets to hear about or see, at least from this war. There's just not a lot of that out there.
Yes, yes. Sometimes we were successful to get information. Sometimes we weren't. Lately, they were being very sophisticated. I think they found out our techniques and everything, so they weren't giving too much information. They were trained not to say anything.
So you've talked you've talked about working obviously with these FETs or these CSTs. What was kind of your impression, like working with not just females but female soldiers, and then being in an area where, especially in Kandahar and Helmand, where it's a lot more socially conservative and people are not as likely to engage you guys because you're female? Like, I know you and I talked a little bit beforehand. Just seemed really impressed, right, with your female counterparts in uniform.
Yes. I actually am very proud of them to make those kind of sacrifices, to join the military in any branch, Marine, Navy, Army. These young girls, they put their lives in danger, in line to come. They actually, most of the CST, they volunteered to go to Afghanistan. They wanted to just go and deploy and, see the real world. I am very impressed by them, and I am so lucky that I work with them. I've learned so much from them. For them, it's not easy because that's not their country. That's not their motherland. For me, it was easy because I knew the language. That was my motherland. It wasn't as hard. For them, it's very hard because they don't speak the language. They basically rely on interpreters. I mean, they're heroes, in my opinion. They work like shoulder to shoulder with the men, military, in the military. They go beyond. I mean, they work extra hard to make sure that they're not behind or they're not less than a male soldier. So I have sweet memories from these wonderful women that I work with, and men as well. Actually, the teams that I work with, very protective team, very protective of us, kind. Basically, we were their hope, because if we were not there, how could they understand the language or the culture or this and that? So yeah, it's very impressive that what they did or what they're doing as well. I'm getting so emotional thinking about it. Even talking about it, I'm just so emotional. They're women. In nature, women, we are kind of fragile, but they are working extra hard to make sure they do their duty.
Do you still talk to them? Do you guys still talk and socialize at all?
Yes. I am in contact with all my teammates that I work with. Also, men teammates as well that I work with. We are in contact, and we have great relationship. I mean, things get rough sometimes because you're in a small fob, for example. It's a small fob. You have not a lot going on. There's shortage of food. There's shortage of supplies. You have to make it work. When I was in my one, we did not have a lot of supplies. Food was there, but the things were very simple, and we were very cramped in a small area. I mean, sometimes when we didn't go on missions, we would be there for like a week or two inside the fob, and we're just sitting there and like, what do we do? Okay, we have to make things work. Or even during the mission, when things would get really intense, of course we're human being. We do have these emotions that probably one of the girls don't agree with you or don't want to listen to you, or you don't want to listen to them because they don't know the culture. So things kind of get intense, but at the end of the day, when we come back, we're sisters.
Yeah, hold on to those memories. I think those bonds you form in that situation, like the strongest, at least that I know of. That's awesome. You're still in contact. That's great.
Yeah.
I wanted to just real quick backtrack on obviously you were talking about, and I know we have referenced it before, about just the indoctrination process in Pakistan, right? And I think one of the more prominent examples is the Darul Uloom Haqqaniya Mosque up in KP. So when you were in Pakistan, and I know you said you had a couple siblings, include a brother. I don't know how long you were in Pakistan or where you were in Pakistan, but was there any attempts regarding your family trying to persuade them one way or the other, or were you there in and out and gone before anything like that could develop?
Where we lived was more of a city life. The Taliban were not as close to us or as close to the area that we lived, because they were scared of the government, the Pakistani government as well. I mean, they do their own thing, even though I'm not really good with with politics, how it works between Taliban and the Pakistani government. But all I could say is that they are scared of the Pakistani government, because Pakistan government doesn't want them to come close to people or influence people. There are bomb blasts that happen in Pakistan all the time. Who does it? Taliban does. Or someone who's not happy with the government, they do that. So where we were more close to the city that was protected by the Pakistani police or army, or So we were secure in that perspective. But there were like camps that were made for Afghan refugees. Those are the camps that were more close to Taliban madrasas and influenced by these so-called mullah radical Islamists.
So you're saying that happened more in the refugee camps, as far as taking advantage of people already displaced. You would come in and try to persuade them to your ideology. I guess it did work better in a camp like that where people are hard up.
Yes, because the people in the camp, they are poor. The Taliban are offering them money. There are more people in the camp. They are more vulnerable because they don't have the protection that we did when we were living in the city. So that's what they prey on. The Taliban preyed on the vulnerability.
We've talked about how going to war kind of changed our views of the war. Did that happen to you? Do you have any different views of the conflict looking back on it now than you did before you went?
Did I think if the war was going to be successful before and now? Basically?
Yeah, partially, and then if whether from what you saw of the war, like were we maybe doing things the right way in some areas or the wrong way in others, that kind of thing?
That's a very good question. Yes, because this is what we did. We went very easy on terrorists when we were there. They did not go easy on us, but we did go easy on them just because of the human rights, or whoever is controlling all this, the war crime or whatever. For example, if one of us was caught, by Taliban, the Taliban will chop us, behead us. As you guys have seen photos and videos and all that, because some civilians did get caught by Taliban, and Taliban went, ape shit, excuse my language, on them. But when we used to capture one of them, we went easy on them. We would just go put them in Bagram jail for however many years. Now, looking back, all those people from the jails that were basically jail cells that were made for them are empty, and they're out. They're out to go there and terrorize people, kill people, go to their houses at nighttime. After the collapse of Afghanistan, after that, people are dying. Like every single night, there's a Talib going behind someone's door knocking. Or you used to work for previous government with the Americans or whatever. Come out. Okay, we'll take you. And you do not hear from that person at all. God knows where they take him or what they do to them. But what we did was we went very easy on them, and we should not have done that. I think we should have been neck to neck, just as dangerous as they were. We should have been more aggressive.
Yeah, you were certainly there on the ground, and you saw it much closer than we did. So thank you for sharing that perspective on things too.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're right. I guess those jail cells are empty at Bagram now. So everybody's back out doing what they want to do.
Yeah. And you know what? How hard it was for even one of them to get caught. How much resources, time, and money took to like grab one of them, like get one of them. And now they're just out. Why wouldn't you just like kill them right there and then, or basically like kill them, because they're killing people, innocent people. Back then they were killing innocent people. Now they're killing innocent people. So that kind of after September, whatever happened during the collapse of Afghanistan, I went through a very bad depression, because the people that I work with, some of the people that I work with, my teammates, they lost their limbs. Some of them lost their lives. ANA that I work with, majority of them lost their lives. All of them that I knew. Back then they lost their lives. Now they're losing their lives. And all we did is just, got the guy, the bad guy, put him in a jail in Bagram, feed him 24/7, take care of them, bathe them, and give them a best life. And now they're out. So that kind of hurts. Seeing that, it hurts. And now when they're in power and using American equipment, our basically everything, even to the uniform, they're using our uniforms. Like, why did we go to Afghanistan for 20 years? We fought. We lost so many people. We've lost Afghan American lives to this. To nothing. It hurts. It really hurts.
Yeah, we watched everything unfold in August and have the same feelings. I would say not as deeply and closely intertwined as you, given our backgrounds, but we can certainly understand the feeling of just like hopelessness and anger and fear and frustration all boiling over. It's a tough one, and not a lot of people can understand that.
No.
Yeah, they've sold me a lot more whiskey since then, for sure. So somebody's profiting off of it. But no, in all seriousness, yeah, it's rough. And thank you for sharing your perspective on that. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant to talk about, but it's helpful to have people around that went through the same stuff or in a similar way that you can kind of vent these frustrations to. I think the decision and outcome might be different if we could have all voiced them to the politicians that decided to do all this. But Nadia, we want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts and your experiences with us. And just want to give you the floor if you have anything you want to say or anything you want to add. Well, you got the floor.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and also I thank you all for your services. And I'm deeply saddened that we lost 13 Marines during the evacuation and a lot of civilian lives. I think that really is the hardest part that I always think about, is that we lost 13 people. We could have done a better job, but we didn't. So I'm no politician. I'm nobody. I'm just the translator that I worked very closely with the American forces and Afghan forces and Afghan people. But other than that, I thank you. I thank each and every single of you that went to Afghanistan, put your life in danger, dealt with a lot of family back here, family issues, everything. So thank you so much. It takes a lot for a man to defend his country. No ordinary man can do that. So
well, you certainly did more dangerous stuff than we did, Nadia. So we definitely appreciate everything you did. You were certainly more of an asset than any of our PowerPoint presentations or airplane trips or anything like that could have done. So yeah, we appreciate you going there and putting it all on the line for it. And I'm sure that you guys saw a lot of good done there. So we appreciate you.
Thank you.